Captain Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the OGS Aegis, Earth's first quantum-shielded warship. The pale blue marble of humanity's homeworld hung below, peaceful against the void of space. But Sarah knew better than to trust that peace. The consortium's deadline was approaching. "Captain, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the lunar colonies," Lieutenant James Rodriguez reported from his sensor station. "Consortium ships are moving into position." Sarah's jaw tightened. For 3 decades, humanity had lived under the consortium's protection, a polite word for subjugation. The alliance of alien species had arrived just as humans were making their first tentative steps into interstellar travel, offering guidance and restrictions in equal measure. "Status of the quantum shield system?" she asked, turning to her chief engineer. Dr. Maya Patel looked up from her station, dark circles under her eyes betraying months of sleepless nights perfecting the technology. "Shield matrix is stable, Captain. The quantum entanglement field is maintaining coherence at 98.9%, better than our best simulations." It had taken 15 years of secret research, hidden from the consortium's watchful eyes, to develop the quantum shield technology. While the aliens relied on conventional energy barriers, humanity's scientists had discovered a way to create defensive fields using quantum entanglement. The shields didn't just deflect energy. They redirected it through quantum space, making them theoretically impenetrable. The consortium had discovered the program 3 days ago. Their response was swift and predictable. Surrender the technology or face immediate military action. The Council of Nations had given them their answer by launching the Orbital Guard Fleet. Multiple consortium warships dropping out of FTL, Rodriguez reported. 15. No, 20 vessels. Heavy cruiser configuration. They're charging weapons. Sarah activated the ship-wide comm. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. Remember your training. Remember Earth." The Aegis hummed with power as her crew moved with practiced precision. They had trained for this moment, knowing it would come eventually. Humanity had outgrown its cage, and the zookeepers weren't happy. Incoming transmission from the consortium flagship. Communications Officer Lisa Wong announced. "They're demanding our immediate surrender and the transfer of all quantum shield research data." "Put it on screen," Sarah ordered. The alien commander's face appeared. A Valksid, one of the consortium's warrior races. Its scaled features were arranged in what Sarah had learned to recognize as contempt. "Captain Chen," it said in perfectly accented English, "your species has violated multiple technology development protocols. Surrender now, and the consortium will show mercy." Sarah met its gaze steadily. "This is Captain Chen of the Earth Orbital Guard. We are a sovereign species exercising our right to self-defense. Any hostile action against Earth or its colonies will be met with appropriate force." The Valksid's scales darkened, a sign of anger. "You leave us no choice. The consortium cannot allow uncontrolled species to possess such dangerous technology." The transmission cut off. Immediately, energy readings from the consortium fleet spiked. "Multiple weapon locks," Rodriguez shouted. "They're targeting our orbital defense platforms." "Bring quantum shields to full power," Sarah ordered. "All ships, defensive formation Delta. Protect those platforms." The Aegis moved into position. Its sister ships, Sentinel, Guardian, and Bulwark, falling into formation around it. The first volley from the consortium fleet lit up space like artificial lightning. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The quantum shields flared to life. Instead of the expected explosions, the consortium's energy weapons seemed to vanish into rippling distortions around the Earth ships. Dr. Patel's hands flew across her console, monitoring the readings. "Shields holding. Energy redirect successful. We're channeling their attacks through quantum space." The consortium ships paused their assault, clearly surprised by the complete failure of their weapons. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The quantum shields were working even better than expected. "All ships, battle formation," she commanded. "Show them humanity is done being treated like children." The orbital guard fleet moved as one, their quantum shields creating a mesmerizing display as they absorbed and redirected everything the consortium threw at them. But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The real test would come when the rest of the consortium fleet arrived. As if reading her thoughts, Rodriguez called out, "Captain." More FTL signatures detected. Massive energy readings. This looks like their entire sector fleet. Sarah straightened in her command chair. Send word to Earth Command. Tell them Phase 1 was successful. The quantum shields work. Request permission to proceed with Phase 2. The response came quickly. A single word. Granted. Dr. Patel. Sarah turned to her engineer. Initialize the quantum drive. Maya's fingers danced across her console. Quantum drive spooling up. Captain, are you sure about this? We've never tested it in actual combat conditions. No choice now, Sarah replied. If we can't prove we can fight back effectively, they'll never respect our independence. The quantum drive was the offensive application of their new technology, using quantum entanglement not just for defense, but to create weapons that could bypass any known shielding. It was untested, dangerous, and exactly what humanity needed to break free. Quantum drive at full power, Maya reported. Target solutions ready. Sarah took a deep breath, looking at the massive consortium fleet arrayed against her 4 ships. This moment would either mark humanity's emergence as a true spacefaring civilization, or she pushed the thought aside. All ships target their command vessels. Let's show the consortium exactly what humanity can do when pushed too far. The quantum drives powered up, creating beautiful patterns of light around the Earth ships. The battle that would decide humanity's future was about to begin, and Sarah Chen intended to make sure the aliens never forgot this day. The day humanity proved it wouldn't be controlled any longer. The quantum drive's activation changed everything. As the Aegis's weapon systems engaged, streams of brilliant energy danced across space, ignoring the consortium's supposedly impenetrable shields as if they weren't there. The alien vessels' hulls buckled under impacts that bypassed their every defense. Direct hits on 3 command ships, Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with controlled excitement. Their shields, they didn't even register the attacks. Dr. Maya Patel's hands flew across her console, analyzing the data. The quantum-entangled particles are performing exactly as theorized. They're establishing links directly through subspace, completely bypassing conventional defenses. Sarah Chen watched as the massive consortium fleet reeled from the unexpected assault. The aliens had come expecting to put down an uppity species that had overstepped its bounds. Instead, they faced technology that rendered their military superiority meaningless. Multiple consortium ships are powering down their weapons. Lisa Wong called from communications. They're requesting a ceasefire. But before Sarah could respond, new alarms blared across the bridge. Maya's face went pale as she studied her readings. Captain, we have a problem. The quantum drives, they're creating some kind of spatial distortion. Through the bridge viewport, Sarah could see it. Space itself seemed to ripple around their weapons' impact points, like heat waves over hot pavement. But these distortions weren't disappearing. They were growing. All ships power down quantum drives, she ordered immediately. Switch to conventional weapons only. The Valksid commander's face appeared on screen again, its scales now a modeled pattern that Sarah had never seen before. What have you done? It demanded. Our sensors are detecting massive subspace anomalies forming throughout the battle zone. We're detecting the same thing, Sarah replied, forcing calm into her voice. Recommend both fleets withdraw to a safe distance until we can analyze the phenomenon. The alien commander's vertical pupils narrowed. You humans, always pushing boundaries you don't understand. This is exactly why the consortium maintains technology development protocols. Multiple spatial ruptures forming. Rodriguez interrupted. There, Captain, I'm detecting matter/energy exchanges that shouldn't be possible. Sarah watched in horror as the distortions began pulling in debris from the battle. But instead of simply consuming it, the matter seemed to change as it entered the ruptures, transforming into impossible shapes before vanishing completely. Dr. Patel, what are we looking at? Maya's voice shook slightly. The quantum entangled particles. They're not just bypassing shields, they're punching holes in the fabric of space-time itself. Each weapon's impact created millions of quantum links, and they're becoming self-sustaining. Impossible. The Valksid commander snarled. No species at your development level could create weapons that affect fundamental forces. Clearly, you underestimated us. Sarah shot back. Now, are we going to work together to fix this, or keep arguing while space itself unravels? A new rupture formed between the fleets, larger than the others. As they watched, it began pulling in smaller distortions, growing with each absorption. The laws of physics themselves seemed to bend around its edges. All ships, fall back, Sarah ordered. Maximum safe distance from the anomalies. Lisa, get me Earth Command. They need to know what's happening. But before Lisa could make the connection, every sensor on the bridge went crazy. The large rupture had begun pulsing with impossible colors, sending out waves of energy that made reality itself shudder. Energy readings off the scale, Rodriguez reported. Captain, it's creating some kind of cascade effect. The ruptures are starting to appear beyond the battle zone. Maya's voice was barely a whisper. The quantum entanglement. It's spreading. Like a crack in glass, growing outward. We didn't just make holes in space. We created weak points that are propagating through subspace. The Valksid commander's face showed an emotion Sarah had never seen on an alien before. Raw fear. You don't understand what you've done. The last time something like this happened, entire sectors of space simply ceased to exist. Sarah felt ice in her veins as she realized the true magnitude of what they'd unleashed. In trying to defend Earth's independence, they might have started a chain reaction that could unravel the very fabric of the universe. All Earth ships, power down completely, she ordered. No engines, no weapons, nothing that might interact with the quantum field. Maya, I need options. How do we stop this? But as her chief engineer began running calculations, more ruptures appeared throughout the system. The consortium fleet scattered, trying to avoid the growing tiers in space. Some made it. Others vanished into the impossible geometries of broken spacetime. Their crews' screams cut off as reality itself rejected them. Sarah Chen had wanted to prove humanity's worth to the galaxy. Instead, she might have just triggered its end. As she watched the ruptures spread, she knew they had hours at most to find a solution before the damage became irreversible. The quantum shield technology had given Earth its freedom, but the price of that freedom was proving far higher than anyone could have imagined. The emergency conference aboard the consortium flagship felt surreal. Just hours ago, they had been enemies. Now, Captain Sarah Chen sat across from the Valksid commander, whose name she'd learned was Kextal, while their crews worked together to prevent universal catastrophe. The ruptures have spread to 3 neighboring systems, Maya reported, her holographic display showing the growing crisis. They're appearing faster now, and they're evolving. Kextal's scientific advisor, a spindly being named Zurain, leaned forward. Explain. The quantum entanglement field isn't just creating holes in spacetime, Maya explained. It's creating connections. The ruptures are linking to each other through subspace, forming a network that's growing exponentially. Sarah watched the display as new red dots appeared, each representing another tear in reality. How long do we have? At the current rate of expansion, Maya's voice was grim. Maybe 48 hours before the ruptures reach major population centers. After that, she didn't need to finish. They'd all seen what happened to ships caught in the anomalies. The consortium has encountered similar phenomena before, Zurain said quietly. In our historical records, there are accounts of a civilization called the Precursors. They developed technology that could manipulate quantum states on a massive scale. What happened to them? Sarah asked. though she feared she knew the answer. They vanished, Kextol replied, along with 300 cubic light-years of space. The void they left behind remains empty to this day. Nothing can exist there, not matter, not energy, not even space itself. The room fell silent as they contemplated that fate potentially awaiting the known galaxy. Finally, Dr. Patel spoke up. "I think I know what's happening," she said, manipulating the holographic display. "The quantum drives didn't just create weapons. They created points where multiple quantum states could exist simultaneously. When we fired them, we forced reality to accept impossible configurations." Zirain finished, their large eyes widening. "And now space-time itself is trying to resolve the contradictions. But it can't," Maya continued. "So instead, it's creating these ruptures, places where the normal laws of physics break down completely." A junior officer burst into the conference room. "Commander Kextol, Captain Chen, the ruptures, they're starting to merge." They rushed to the flagship's observation deck. The view took Sarah's breath away. Dozens of ruptures had joined together, forming a massive void that twisted and writhed like a living thing. As they watched, it pulled in a small asteroid. The rock didn't break apart or explode. It simply ceased to exist, taking a sphere of space with it. "The process is accelerating," Zirain announced, checking their instruments. "The merged ruptures are creating gravitational effects that draw in other ruptures. They're feeding on each other." "Can we close them?" Sarah asked. "Maybe if we reverse the quantum entanglement somehow." Maya shook her head. "The original ruptures maybe, but these merged ones, they're self-sustaining now. They've become something new, like wounds in the universe that can't heal." "There might be a way," Kextol said slowly, "but it would require something that has never been attempted. We would need to combine consortium phase technology with your quantum drives." "That's impossible," Zirain protested. "The energy requirements alone." "We have no choice," Sarah interrupted. "Every minute we waste, more ruptures appear. The next one could take out an inhabited world." As if to emphasize her point, new alarms sounded. A massive rupture had just appeared near a consortium colony world. They watched in horror as the planet's atmosphere began to distort, drawn toward the void like water down a drain. "The colony's requesting immediate evacuation," an officer reported. "Population 6 million. Sarah turned to Kextol. "Whatever your plan is, we need to do it now. Maya, work with Zirain. If there's any way to combine our technologies safely, find it." The two scientists hurried off, already deep in technical discussion. Sarah stayed on the observation deck with Kextol, watching as more ruptures appeared across space. "You know," the alien commander said quietly, "we really did think we were protecting you. Your species advances so quickly, creates such dangerous things." "We create them because we have to," Sarah replied. "Because everything we have, we've had to fight for. Maybe if you treated us as equals instead of children, we could have developed this technology safely together." Kextol's scales shifted to a pattern Sarah hadn't seen before. "If we survive this, things will change. The consortium's policy toward emerging species, it needs to be reevaluated." Before Sarah could respond, Maya's voice came over the comm. "Captain, Commander, we have an idea, but you're not going to like it." As Sarah listened to the plan, she realized that saving the universe would require both humanity and the consortium to take the biggest risk of all, trusting each other completely. And they had less than 2 days to make it work. The plan was insane. As Sarah Chen watched engineers from both fleets modify the OGS Aegis, she still couldn't quite believe what they were attempting. They had less than 24 hours before the ruptures reached the core worlds of both humanity and the consortium. "The quantum core modifications are complete," Maya reported, her face streaked with grease and exhaustion. "We've integrated the consortium's phase technology as best we could. But Captain, this is incredibly dangerous. More dangerous than letting reality tear itself apart." Sarah asked, watching through the viewport as another rupture formed, larger than any before. "The theory is sound," Zerain added, their long fingers dancing across a holographic display. "If we can create a controlled quantum rupture inside a phase bubble, it should act like a drain, pulling in the other ruptures. Then we can collapse it safely." "Should," Kextol emphasized. The Valxid commander had barely slept since they'd begun the modifications. No one has ever attempted anything like this. The ship shuddered as another nearby rupture pulled in a chunk of space. The void it left behind shimmered with impossible colors that hurt to look at. More ruptures were appearing every hour, and they were getting bigger. "Status report," Sarah called out to her bridge crew. 15 major population centers evacuated, Lisa responded. "But we're running out of places to put refugees. The ruptures are appearing too fast." "Quantum core is stable but showing unusual readings," Maya added. "The integration with the phase technology is creating patterns I've never seen before." "Time to test it," Sarah decided. "All non-essential personnel, evacuate to the consortium ships." "Maya, Zerain, start the power-up sequence." As crew members transported off the Aegis, Sarah felt the ship come alive around her. The quantum core hummed with new harmonics as the alien phase technology merged with it. On her displays, energy readings climbed past anything they'd ever attempted. "Power at 30%, Maya reported. "Phase bubble forming. Quantum field stable so far." Through the viewport, Sarah watched as reality seemed to bend around her ship. The consortium's phase technology created a sphere of distorted space, while the quantum core filled it with a network of glowing energy patterns. 40%. 50. Anomaly detected in the quantum field. The ship shuddered violently. Outside, the phase bubble began to pulse with the same impossible colors they'd seen in the ruptures. "What's happening?" Sarah demanded. "The quantum field is resonating with the ruptures," Zerain explained quickly. "It's like they're recognizing each other." Power at 60%. Suddenly, every rupture in visual range turned toward the Aegis like hungry mouths sensing prey. The phase bubble around the ship grew larger, its surface rippling with quantum effects. 70%. "Captain, the ruptures are moving toward us." Sarah watched as tears in spacetime began drifting toward her ship, drawn by the combined quantum and phase fields. This was what they'd wanted, but seeing it happen was terrifying. 80%. Core temperature critical. "The phase bubble is becoming unstable," Zerain warned. "The quantum resonance is stronger than we calculated." Through the viewport, Sarah saw the nearest rupture make contact with their phase bubble. Instead of destroying the ship, it merged with their field, its impossible energies being channeled and controlled by their combined technologies. "It's working," Maya shouted. "The rupture is being contained within our field." More ruptures approach, each being absorbed into their controlled quantum phase bubble. But with each absorption, the ship's systems struggled more. Core temperature beyond critical. Hull integrity failing. "Captain, we can't contain this much quantum energy." Sarah had known it might come to this. "All remaining crew, evacuate now." "That's an order." "Captain," Maya began to protest. "Someone has to stay to manually collapse the field once all the ruptures are contained," Sarah said firmly. "Get to the escape pods." "That's an order, Doctor." As her crew reluctantly evacuated, Sarah watched more ruptures being drawn into their field. The ship groaned under impossible stresses as it contained the very tears in reality they'd created. 90% of known ruptures contained, the computer reported. "Warning. Catastrophic core failure imminent." "Captain Chen," Kextol's voice came over the comm. "There has to be another way." Sarah smiled sadly. "We caused this problem. It's fitting that we fix it. Get your ships to safe distance. When I collapse the field, it's going to be spectacular." The last ruptures were approaching now. The Aegis's hull screamed as materials never meant to exist in the same space merged and transformed around it. "It has been an honor," Kextol said quietly. "Your species truly is remarkable." Just remember that, Sarah replied, her hands moving across the controls as warnings flashed everywhere. Remember that we chose to fix our mistake, no matter the cost. The final ruptures merged with their field. The Aegis now sat at the center of a sphere of controlled chaos, containing all the tiers in reality they'd created. Sarah took one last look at Earth, barely visible in the distance. Computer, begin field collapse sequence. Authorization, Chen Alpha 0. As energy levels climbed beyond anything their instruments could measure, Sarah Chen closed her eyes and smiled. They had wanted to prove humanity's worth to the galaxy. In the end, they had proved it not through power, but through sacrifice. The quantum phase bubble began to collapse, taking with it all the ruptures that had threatened to destroy everything. In her final moments, Sarah thought she saw something through the chaos, other realities, other possibilities, infinite versions of herself making the same choice across countless universes. Then there was light, and the universe began to heal. 1 year after the quantum crisis, Dr. Maya Patel stood before the newly formed Galactic Council. The chamber, built on a neutral world between Earth and consortium space, represented everything that had changed since those fateful days. The last traces of quantum distortion have finally faded, she reported, her voice carrying to representatives of 100 species. The ruptures have been completely sealed. Space-time has returned to normal parameters. And the void where the Aegis made its final stand? Asked Counselor Kextal. The former commander had become one of the strongest advocates for cooperation between species. It remains, Maya answered softly. A sphere of space roughly 1 light-hour in diameter where our instruments can't penetrate. But it's stable, and our simulations suggest it will stay that way. The council chamber was quiet as they contemplated this lasting monument to sacrifice and redemption. Finally, a representative from one of the younger spacefaring races spoke up. Why maintain this council? The crisis is over. The consortium's protocols. The protocols failed. Kextal interrupted. They failed because they were based on fear and control rather than understanding and cooperation. Captain Chin proved that. Maya smiled slightly, remembering her friend and commander. She proved more than that. She showed that advancement without wisdom is dangerous, but so is wisdom without the courage to advance. The changes over the past year had been profound. The consortium's rigid hierarchy had given way to this new council, where all spacefaring species had a voice. Earth, far from being a protected world, now shared its innovations openly while learning from the experiences of older civilizations. The quantum shield research continues, Maya reported, but this time with proper safeguards and collaboration. We're already seeing applications in medicine, energy production, and space travel that benefit everyone. Through the council chamber's windows, she could see ships from dozens of worlds moving through the space lanes. Human vessels flew alongside alien craft, their crews working together to explore and protect the galaxy they shared. There will always be risks in pushing boundaries, Maya continued. But as Sarah Chen showed us, the greater risk lies in trying to prevent progress out of fear. We must move forward together, learning from each other's mistakes and successes. The council session concluded with the approval of new research initiatives and exploration programs. As the representatives filed out, Maya stayed behind, looking at the stellar map that dominated one wall. A small marker showed the void where the Aegis had made its stand. She would be proud, Kextal said, joining her. Your captain. She helped create something greater than any one species. She did more than that, Maya replied. She showed everyone that humanity deserved its place among the stars not because of our technology or our strength, but because of our willingness to take responsibility for our actions, to fix our mistakes, no matter the cost. As if to emphasize her words, a new ship class appeared on the stellar map. The Chen-class explorer vessels, built jointly by human and consortium engineers. They represented the best of both civilizations, human innovation tempered by alien wisdom, ancient knowledge energized by fresh perspectives. The first joint expedition launches tomorrow, Kextal noted. a human captain and a consortium first officer, with a crew from 15 different species. They're going to explore regions of space no one has ever mapped. Maya touched the marker representing the void. There are still mysteries out there, things we don't understand. But now we face them together, learning from each other instead of fearing each other. Outside the council chamber, the galaxy continued its eternal dance. The quantum ruptures were gone, but they had left something valuable in their wake. Understanding. Understanding that no species could claim absolute wisdom, that progress and caution must walk hand in hand, and that the greatest achievements come not from dominance, but from cooperation. As Maya left the chamber, she saw a group of young officers, human and alien alike, studying the memorial plaque that had been placed in the entrance hall. It bore a simple inscription: "In memory of Captain Sarah Chen and the crew of the OGS Aegis, who taught us that true strength lies not in the power to destroy, but in the courage to restore. May we honor their sacrifice by building a galaxy worthy of their dream." The quantum shields that had started everything were now a footnote in history. But the lesson they had taught, that innovation without cooperation, power without wisdom, could threaten everything, had changed the galaxy forever. Humanity had wanted to prove itself worthy of the stars. In the end, they had done so not by fighting the older races, but by showing them a better way forward. Together, they would face whatever mysteries and challenges the universe held, not as superior and inferior species, but as equals united in the greatest adventure of all: exploration, discovery, and growth. The stars beckoned, and this time, all species would answer their call together.